Loosey goosey.
Uh-huh.
Loosey goosey.
Loosey goosey.
Loosey goosey.
We can do that.
Hello, and welcome to Middleish, the podcast about moderation in all things. I am Michael Gray.
And I am Erin Green. Thank you for joining us.
How are you? Yeah, thanks everybody for being here. How's it going?
I'm doing well.
You're doing well?
I'm great, actually.
She's great.
The spring
There's no reason to be cocky about it.
You know, I went out of town for 4 days and I came back and the tree outside our bedroom window, I hadn't realized how much it filled out in the 4 days that I was gone until I woke up one morning and it's almost the first thing I see in the morning. You know, I wake up and kind of look out the window at my feet and it's like full. It's just full. It's crazy.
That's
I'm like,
fun.
how did that happen? So it's always kind of fun when when you're gone for a few days and then you come back, and especially in springtime when the foliage just goes crazy. And
yeah,
everybody knows that I dig nature, and
everybody knows Erin loves foliage.
I know.
Always saying that.
And my garden is in, and so that's fun to come back and see how things have changed. I've got little beets and carrots sprouting up, and
yay.
So then Matt can make fun of me going out and bending over my garden every day and looking really I get really, really close to the garden beds just to see.
See.
Where are the carrots? How many little carrots? Oh, this little row's coming up. Yeah, it's funny. Plant mama.
That's awesome though. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Having something that you planted, watching it grow is like, it's so exciting. Yeah.
Isn't there a saying like gardening is the belief in tomorrow or something like that? Gardening is hope, or like the belief in the future or something. So I think that's one of the cool things about springtime is that things are changing at a very detectable rate. Like you can see flowers opening daily. You can see leaves, and the trees budding out daily and weekly. You can see progress. And with gardening, it's no different. Like there's a little bud on a plant that wasn't there yesterday or the day before. So anyway, it's super cool.
Yeah. We, for Mother's Day this last weekend, Kat wanted to redo a couple of our flower beds. So we spent Saturday at nurseries and, buying plants and stuff, and then spent all Sunday just kind of overhauling them. And we got this one plant, I think it's called like a rubella or something like that. They call it a Mexican petunia, I think it is. Something like that. Anyway, it's really pretty. It's got these really pretty purple flowers, but it's weird because every day, like we planted it, right? It had like, 12 flowers on it. And by that night, they'd all fallen off. And I was like, okay, we're replanting it, some stress to it. Wake up the next morning, there's like 10 new flowers. I'm like,
what?
That's cool. And then that night, they all fell off again. And the next morning, there's like 10 or 12 new flowers.
Is that what it does?
I'm like,
it's like,
this is just what it does.
That is a quick turnaround.
Cool. Yeah, like real fast. Just all fall off. And then every morning, there's more. I'm like, is someone gluing these back on? Like, what's going on?
That's
this
funny.
Is so fast, but it's cool. It's a really cool plant. It's really pretty. And it just like every day there's a bunch more new blooms.
I had a homestay over in Wisconsin that had a plant. I can't remember what it was called, but it was out on their little sun porch and it blooms at night and then closes up in the day. And they will say that they'll stay up, and the name implies that it's a night blooming something or other. So I'm sure somebody has probably heard of this, but they'll stay up at night until the sun goes down and just wait for it to bloom, just to like hang out with a glass of wine or like cup of tea or something and wait for it to bloom. And then, super cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
Plants are cool.
Yeah.
This little prayer plant behind me, that's my second one. And it's not looking so good again. It has to be the geothermal in our house just dries things out. It has to be, because it can't be me. It's really important that it's not me.
Even if it is you, it can't be you. I agree.
I'm not mean to this plant. But these prayer plants are really cool. Plant. I know. I'm really nice to it, you guys. Maybe I'm too nice. Maybe I
Mhm.
shower it with too much
It
attention.
needs
That's
some tough
probably my
love. Yeah.
downfall.
It's spoiled and
I need to
entitled
just
now.
ignore it for a little
Yeah.
while.
Entitled little
But
plant.
I think I've talked about this before where the leaves will open up like praying hands. They'll close up at night like praying hands and then they'll open up again every day. And that's like with the not just the sunlight, but also the warmth and cool, fluctuating temperatures.
Mhm.
Um, but this one is not doing that. I think it's giving me the middle finger instead of praying. I mean, it was praying that it would survive under my care for a long time. And now it's just like, and
It's
we're
like,
going to give you the finger.
yeah, I'm done praying. Double, baby. Double
Brain's
fingers.
not working.
Does it need more
Oh,
sun, I wonder? Like, could it use a little time
it
outside?
might. I don't
Get a little
know.
suntan?
I'll try.
Mm.
I'll try. I've read about it. My orchid is dying in the bathroom. I don't know what my garden looks great, you guys. I don't know what I'm doing to my house plants. I visited a
Oh,
friend
man.
this weekend and she has this whole like above the kitchen sink, there's like these built-in shelves, like this whole
Mhm.
like trellis basically of built-in shelves, and there's plants on every shelf.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
there's, these like viney, I can't remember, my mom had one, this like viney kind of plant where you have to sort of hang and secure the different, vines that are coming off of it. And they are just exploding. They look
Mm.
amazing. It's like she has this beautiful kind of, jungly look to her around her sink in her kitchen. And I'm
That's
just
cool.
like, I don't know how. I don't know how because my plants are like, oh,
Oh, yeah. Kathleen has a pretty good green thumb. We got a lot of house plants at this point. Like I bet she has, I don't know, 15 to 20.
what?
Yeah, she's got a lot. It's
Holy
cool.
cow.
She's just been like
Maybe she
adding and
should come
adding and adding.
come stay with me and teach me a thing or two. Come save my plants, cat.
It's kind of fun just to have like all these little plants all around. I mean, some are big,
Yeah.
some of them are 3 feet tall, but a lot of them are little and they're just kind of everywhere, bathroom and living room and kitchen. And
Nice.
it's kind of fun to have all this greenery.
Well, yeah. I will
Yeah.
not go the plastic plant route. It just ain't going
Yeah.
to happen. So I'll keep trying until I find a
Yeah.
plant that is either unkillable, which I have proven that I kill succulents on the regular. So I'm pretty sure that's
You kill
going to be
succulents.
difficult. I do.
Interesting. What are you
I
doing
don't,
to these plants?
I'm being, I don't know. I have like some bad plant energy or something, unless I'm outside my garden and then they seem to really like me. So
Watering them with gasoline.
anyway, yeah, I thought it was water. It's
I wanted
vodka.
it to
Who
go. I
knows?
wanted to make it go. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Any other news on your end? Anything else?
I got my second COVID shot today, this morning. So
Hooray. I hope that
yeah,
you have a smooth sailing
we'll see
couple
how the
days.
next 24 hours goes. It could
Yeah.
be interesting. My parents just
If
came in yesterday. So I was like, oh, this is a good
uh-huh.
timing.
They can take care of the
Yeah.
girls while you lay in bed.
Yeah. Kathleen got her second dose maybe 2 weeks ago, and she was fine. She was a little tired later on the day.
Yeah.
Like I think she kind of went to bed early and maybe napped like in the later afternoon, but she didn't feel bad. She was just kind of worn out.
It's so bizarre how it hits people differently. I mean,
Right.
I've talked to so many friends that
Hmm.
have had wide-ranging
Yeah.
reactions
It's bizarre.
and it's really weird.
I've known
But
people that have had nothing, like I'm
yeah,
tired, not a headache,
nope.
nothing. And then I've known several people that have had a real rough 8 or 12 hours. My brother had
Yeah.
it was like a day and a half. He was like just
Yeah.
sick, really sick. And then it's just like everybody who's had bad uh, kind of reactions, it seems like everybody that I've talked to at least, it's like they feel terrible. And all of a sudden it's just like, oh, it's
It
over now.
really is.
I
It's
might
really
just all of a sudden
bizarre.
feel better.
Yeah. And I was talking with a friend about this yesterday because it's the kind of my reaction, at least, was when I have felt like that before, man, I'm in for a long haul,
Mhm,
horrible several days of feeling sick. And so you sort of prepare yourself for that.
mhm.
And I think that is maybe the worst part of the reaction is that you prepare yourself for feeling like total crap for,
Right.
you know, a number of days, but within 24 hours, I mean, definitely the first 8 were the very worst.
Hmm.
But within 24 hours, I was really starting to feel very normal again. So it
Yeah.
was so brief for me that I was like, that's so weird. I just,
Yeah.
compared to how I felt last night, I would not be expecting to feel this great
Yeah. Feel pretty
this
good.
evening. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
How long did it take for you to start feeling crappy? About 12
eight
hours?
hours,
8 hours.
8 on
Okay.
the dot. It was really weird. And I know because I looked at the clock and I was like, oh, it's 7 p.m. and I want to go to bed. Like, and that was
Yeah.
exactly 8 hours after my shot. So,
So
but some
that'll
people
be,
say it's 24. So, I mean,
yeah, that would be like 5:30 for me this evening.
yeah,
So we'll
yeah,
see. I'll keep you posted.
yeah.
And next week when we record episode 52,
Woo.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Michael and I are really excited to do the season 2 thing.
Yeah,
We're
right?
through season 1. We're
We
gonna
t-
hit on season 2.
we talked about it because when we post like on Anchor and stuff, it gives you the option to do seasons. And we talked about like with the new year, like when
Mm,
2021, we were like, so we do season 2 now? Do we wait a year? And we both felt like it was cooler to do like a whole year and then season
yeah,
2. Season 2 of Middleish. That's actually an exciting thing.
I know.
Yeah,
It's really fun.
it's
I
super
I love
cool.
it. So
All right.
we'll do something cool for
Yeah,
our 52nd
we'll figure it
episode.
out in the next few days.
That's our style.
That's how we roll. Yeah, we do have a topic today.
We do have a topic.
We
And you know what I
do.
love is we just spent the last, whatever, 10 minutes talking about all of these real life things,
Hmm.
things in our immediate world that you can see and touch and be in the presence of and
Experience.
experience.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so I think it dovetails nicely into our topic
I think this
of
is a
social
fantastic
media,
segue. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well done.
Because so I know, go us.
Go
We
you. I didn't have anything to do with that. That was all
totally
you.
unplanned. But social media,
Hmm.
uh, which I'm really happy we're talking about this because yes, Middleish is largely geared toward health and, exercise, nutrition, all of those things. But hey, mental health and behaviors and habits and patterns and all of those things are a huge part of what we talk about. And social media, man, it is in our lives in all aspects of health. And we're going to talk today a little bit about how that impacts our health and our lives.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think I was thinking about this just a few minutes before we got on, just how it's such a great topic because there's such a need for a middle-ish approach with it. Because the thing about social media is it does serve a lot of great purposes. It's like I live 2,000 miles away from my family, but they can see like what my girls are up to all the time and pictures and people who,
mhm,
care about my family. We can stay in touch with, we can talk in real time. And like, there's business wise, I can work with anyone in the world. I can, you know, I mean, there's just so many amazing things about it and so much good that it can do. I mean, ideas can spread so easily, but there's a dark side to that. Like
mhm.
ideas can spread so easily, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
crazy cuckoo ideas.
Yeah.
And there's, as we all know, and we'll get into this, but there's a real dark side to that. And I was just thinking like, man, what a great topic to discuss about why you need to have this moderate approach, why you need to
Mhm.
kind of be middleish with it, because you can use it for a lot of wonderful things, but it can really turn on you and be a real negative in your life. And I think that's where a lot of us are. I think the pandemic has made that worse.
Mhm.
I don't know. Aaron's got some stats here, and I don't know if there's anything about how increased social media use since the pandemic. Um,
I do.
but
Yeah.
I would guess it's way up.
I do have a stat on that.
Bring that stat.
So, I mean, I have seen a couple just news stories on it
Mhm.
talking about increased internet addiction and reliance on the internet during the pandemic. And I found this study, it was out of China and it had almost 6,500 subjects. So a pretty robust survey, and said
Yeah.
that 46.8% of subjects reported increased dependent on internet use through the pandemic, and 16.6% had longer hours of internet use. Now, internet use, sure, that could be Zoom meetings, that could be, correspondence, email with your work, that kind of thing.
Sure.
But they also refer to, quote, problematic internet use, which is, I think, one of the hardest things about social media and just that problematic word in general is it's very subjective, right?
Sure.
Um,
What's
similar to,
problematic to one person might not be to
yeah,
another. Yeah.
similar to any addiction,
Hmm.
one person might not view it as problematic, particularly the user might
Hmm.
not realize that this is problematic. And it's the people around that user, in their lives and seeing these habits and patterns that are like,
Hmm.
this is problematic. Um, some of the things I have observed, not only in myself, but in other people, is when it seems like social media is driving emotions and sort of responses to things that you can't you almost feel like you're out of control, like it's a visceral reaction.
Hmm.
I've noticed that when I talk with people or if I see their social media feed and how they interact with some people in their audience.
Hmm.
um, it almost seems like it's just this outlet of some kind of emotion and a way to channel that without actually having some kind of, you know, balanced, rational, or healthier kind of
Hmm.
outlet. And
Yeah.
then one of the other things with addiction, of course, is if you start thinking, maybe I should cut back on this, or maybe I should quit this, or maybe I should, when you start having those thoughts, that's a signal that this is not a helpful thing in your life if you're considering cutting it out,
Hmm. Yeah.
um, but also it's probably really effing hard to do when you have those thoughts like maybe I should cut back, maybe I should set a timer, maybe I should delete Facebook.
Hmm.
What's keeping you from doing that? That's
Hmm.
where I think the crux of this whole thing lies.
Right. I agree. Do you feel like your social media usage, I guess two-part question. Do you feel like your social media usage has changed since the beginning of pandemic? And do you feel like it's been, uh, if there has been a change, has it been mostly negative or positive,
Mhm.
or what's that been like for you?
That's a good question. I feel like, so my job has always been pretty tightly connected with social media,
Hmm.
especially my racing as
Hmm.
a professional triathlete, promoting sponsors. I know with some of my earliest partnerships, I was required to have a social media presence, to open accounts on certain platforms and maintain that flow. Um, I viewed it as a way for people to get to know my authentic self. To all, sure, there's sponsorship push and there's, trying to make light of things and trying to keep perspective and put positive messaging out there. But I always wanted people to get to know me. So if they ever did meet me in person, like at a race or something, that
Hmm.
they felt like they knew me. So that's just a little background on how I've used social media in the past.
Yeah.
Since the pandemic, it's been interesting because my pro career ended right before the pandemic. And so all of a sudden I kind of had this nice release from,
Right.
from that obligatory social media presence. And I call it the pressure to stay relevant.
Hmm.
And so I kind of had that nice break from that. But then the pandemic happened. And I did at first use it as a means to gather information, not just like, people share articles or videos and stuff, but also like their own lived experiences.
Yeah.
You don't have the opportunity to just see someone at a barbecue, excuse me, and talk to them about, oh, I had this experience or this story. So I was
Hmm.
using it for that purpose, and then also to stay connected with some family and friends. I mean, it really was like interaction. You could comment and go back and forth. When it became really problematic for me was when things became largely political,
Hmm.
and when things became so skewed in terms of what is fact and what is speculation and what is downright fiction.
Hmm.
that became really, really difficult for me. And I started noticing like those, I was just saying, those visceral reactions where
Right.
I could feel the knot in my stomach, the blood pressure rising, the pulse rate increasing, the breathing, like that stress response. I was
Mm-hmm.
actually detecting it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a few interactions with family members that I was like, I can't subject myself to this.
Right.
And why am I? Like,
Right.
why? Matt actually deleted the Facebook app from his phone. He gets on Facebook maybe once a month, like on his
Mm-hmm.
computer, just randomly, we'll see what's there. Um, and I got to the point, I didn't delete it, but I moved it from my home screen. I turned off all notifications and I decided I would go there when I felt like I was ready to go there. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want Facebook in particular infiltrating my life in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I have changed. I set more boundaries. I set a screen time, a social media screen time timer on my phone. And I largely just stick to platforms that I think serve me in positive ways and allow me to, grow my business, reach people, and do the things that I think social media can do for good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of the long and short of it.
Okay. Good.
How about you?
Yeah. I don't know if my time on social media increased a lot around the beginning of the pandemic. I mean, same for me. Like I rely heavily on social media for my business, right? And I'm predominantly an online coach, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a few people I work with in person, but 95% of my clientele is online. And that's how I market. That's where I, am in front of people, that kind of stuff. And I've always felt, I mean, I've noticed a lot of issues with it before the pandemic, of course, like we all have, but I have felt before and through this that I feel like I have an important voice in this field, and I feel like I'm saying things that need to be said, that are counter to a lot of garbage out there, and I use it a lot for my business. So I've had to really be careful with that, of course, and it got more so. I had to be more careful during the pandemic because first part of pandemic we've got like there was a lot going on. Like there's economic stuff, there's
Right.
political stuff, there's racial tension, there's like so much.
Mm-hmm.
And for probably the first like 3 months when things kind of shut down, I spent a lot of time being very angry. I was just getting
Sure.
so worked up and
Yeah.
pissed off and mad, and I'm sitting at my desk and I'm trying to like I'm supposed to be working on this thing for a client or something. And in my head, I'm going like I'm rehearsing a response to somebody, and
I
what am I going
know.
to say? And I'm just like, I don't even know this person, I don't care, but I do, and I'm all worked up, and it's
I
that visceral
know.
response you're talking about. And so I when I stopped following a lot of people, unfriended some people, just like I'm okay with healthy discourse with someone I care about having healthy discourse with. If it's someone I went to high school with and that's the last time we talked, I don't care about your opinions. I don't care about
Right.
having a discourse with you. Sorry, but you shouldn't
Right.
really care about having a discourse with me either. Like
Right.
we don't have that kind of place in each other's life where, hey, let's talk about our opposing views. Um, and I certainly there's no need for people because man, there are a lot of people who are just assholes. Like that's
Yeah.
my point. This is what
Like
I'm
kind of
going to
picking a
be now.
fight.
I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't need this. Like that's just negativity. There's plenty of negativity out there. I don't need to like invite it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of that, and I just since then, and this is ebbed and flowed for sure. But I've been really conscious of trying to. I would say most of the time when I get on social media, it's to respond to something, a comment or something like that, or to post something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, since about little less than a year ago, I've made a lot more of a concerted effort to, again, ebbs and flows, but to not get on just for the sake of getting on. Like I have a
Right.
purpose and a point. I'm going to post something or someone, commented or asked a question, whatever. I'm going to respond to that. And then I'm going to get off. Like I'm just going on to do this thing. But it's funny how often I go on with a purpose and it pops up. And then 5 minutes later, I'm like, wait, what did I get on here for?
Yep.
Because I
Yep.
saw a thing that maybe go, oh, and then I'm scrolling and I'm doing this. And I'm like, wait, what was I? Why
Matt
am I
and I
here?
experience that all the time. All the time. Yeah. What did
Yeah.
I know I picked up my phone for a reason, but then
Yeah.
this little
I have
badge
no
caught my
idea
eye
what it
and
was. Yeah. Yeah. So it's better than it was a year ago for me. I feel like maybe it's better than pre-pandemic. I'm not sure, but I do try to be really conscious of why I get on there, and to not get on there just for the sake of to get on there, which is
yeah,
really easy to do. It's like I don't
it
care
is.
about a lot of that stuff, but I still at the same time, I wonder if there's anything on. Wonder
I
if
know.
anyone's posted anything interesting. It's like I don't even care.
I've found
It's weird.
myself, yeah, doing this odd thing where it's just a pure habit to pick up my phone and wake it up and just start poking around on there. And
Yeah, isn't
I
it
will
weird?
find my, yeah, it's so weird. And it really is a habitual thing.
Right.
Um, and I have really become aware of it. And I'm working on methods that help me
Hmm.
kind of start to restructure that habit into a way that is more purposeful and serves me better. Um, and just to your point, there was another little statistic that I found in here that talked about active use versus passive use on
Mm,
social media.
that's a good
Passive social
distinction.
media use, which is just reading posts and scrolling, some people call it
Hmm.
doom scrolling, like you're just scrolling, scrolling, scrolling,
Let's
is
find
more.
something that's gonna piss
I
me off.
know there's something in here. Everybody's life is so much better than mine. Oh my God.
Right.
So that passive social media use, which is reading posts, is more strongly associated with depression than active social media use, which is making posts. And I think this is a really important distinction for people and goes to your point that you sort of shifted your mindset into I am going to engage in social media for this purpose. And it is
Hmm.
to, engage with other people, to comment or write to them or to make a post. Um, in the early stages of the pandemic, I was sharing a breathing exercise. It was just like this Giphy that did a, breathe in, count to five, hold it, count to five, breathe out, count to five
I remember seeing you post that a lot, and every time I
every
was like, "Oh,
day.
I'm glad she posted it,"
I know.
because I would sit there and do
Every
it.
I did it, I think literally every day for a few months at the
Hmm.
beginning of the pandemic. And part of it was just because I didn't know what else to do, like what else to post. There was
Right.
so much going on in my brain and in the world that it just felt like my voice would only add to confusion, discourse, emotions. I really was just like, I don't know what else to post. And so I would post this breathing
Hmm.
thing. And I had so many wonderful comments actually, where people exactly like you
Yep.
would disrupt their scrolling and they'd be like, oh, okay, and they do this breathing exercise and people were, we'd have conversations about like it's too hard to hold it for 5 seconds. How do you hold it? And I'm like, well, the purpose is just to get you to focus on the
Hmm.
breath, because we actually know that the breath is the one connection that we have between the parasympathetic nervous system, which we
Right.
don't have control over, but you do have control over your breath. And that is
Hmm.
the gateway.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a happy accident because I think somebody else obviously shared that Giphy. That's how I found it. But I really was like, how can I just make a small impact? How can I help and use social media in some way?
Hmm.
Um, Other than food and recipe ideas and some of
Right.
the other things I was doing. But
Yeah. You know
yeah.
what? I don't know that it was every time, but I know a majority of the time when I would come across that, and I would just, even if it was for like, 2 rounds of like breathing in and out, I would
Yeah.
often get off social media after that, because it
Yeah.
was like a break in this routine and this cycle of like, okay, let's get caught up in a bunch of
Mhm.
crap I don't care about. And I'd see that and would pull me out of it, which is just a good illustration for like sometimes just causing a disruption, which we've talked about before. And our routines can cause us to go, oh, what am I doing here? Is this what I want to be doing? I don't think so. I'm
Right.
gonna do something else. But I would notice that a lot of times I would do that. I'd see that post from you. I would engage with it, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm done. On to other things, because it would break sort of that
Yep.
routine, for me. Yeah, which was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have a timer or anything set on your phone that pings you when you've spent enough time
I
on?
had one for a while, and I I got rid of it because I don't know that it was a good reason, but I was like, I don't know what the difference is between me just kind of like wasting time and me doing like active work time, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so I was like, I don't really know what's going on here. And so I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to be more conscious of it. I've turned off all notifications, which is a huge help.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and then during, well, actually most of the time, but always during the workday, I have my phone on silent,
Mm-hmm.
just so there's no ding or vibration or anything, to, draw my attention. And honestly, what I do a lot is I just put my phone away when I'm working. Like if,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a phone call or anything coming up, it's like I put it in a drawer or the other room or even just in my pocket. So it's
Yeah.
not right there. Cause if I'm working and it's on the desk, I can be in the middle of a sentence and be like, maybe I'll grab my phone for a little bit.
I know. I know. It's
It's
so weird.
bizarre. It's like, why? Like, I don't even, and I say I don't even care about that stuff. Obviously, part of me does, because otherwise I wouldn't do it. I feel like I don't care about it. I feel
Mhm.
like, for the most part, social media, I think is uninteresting, but I still find
Yeah, I mean,
myself going to it.
how often do you find yourself feeling better for
Right.
being on there? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
really, there are times when I actually do feel better after being on
Mm-hmm.
social media. I have a funny little engagement with someone, or, you get that little dopamine hit because people like your picture, or all
Mm-hmm.
these like weird little psychological things. Yes, there are times when I do feel better, a little boost, a little connection with somebody. Most of the time, though, it either leaves me feeling kind of flat and indifferent and like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, that was a waste of time, or worse about
Yeah.
myself. And
So, oh,
I I did have a little statistic on
yeah.
that, but let me find it and go ahead and
Well, I was going to
share
ask you a
your thought.
question. Can
Go
you
for it.
answer while you look for statistics?
Yes, I can.
We're going to find out how talented Aaron
I
is.
know. We'll see how much I can listen and read at the same time.
You're just like, let me think about that for a minute. Um, okay. So this is like super duper honesty time for both of us. Do you
Okay.
ever, do you ever post something that you feel like is really quality and it doesn't get a response that you think it will, and it like really bums you out? Does that ever
Oh
happen?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Of course it happens,
Same.
especially when you're using it to promote your brand. And each of us,
Hmm.
our we are the brand,
Right. Right. It's not
You
a
are the
product.
brand.
It's we're the product.
Yeah, you are Michael Gray Fitness. Like
Yeah.
this. So of course, and this happened a lot during racing too. If I would post something and it what I learned, and when I would kind of look at this with a broader scope, I'd be like, it really it doesn't matter what kind of content I put out there. It really can be the luck of the draw sometimes. When you post it,
Right.
the time of day, the day of the week, if there's a
Hmm.
holiday going on, if it's a travel season or not, if it's a rainy day in one area and people have more time on social media.
Hmm.
I mean, who the hell knows? It
Right.
has nothing to do with me.
I
It
know.
has nothing to do with
It's so
how
funny.
much people like me, or how much they believe what I say, or how
But we
much
tell
they,
ourselves that, right?
oh, totally,
It's like
totally
I'll spend like, 30 minutes like really crafting something I feel is like written well and
thinking through.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like editing and revisiting and then it gets like nothing and I'm like, man, is this just garbage? Did I think like this terrible idea was like something worthwhile? Like, gosh, should I not have said that? Like, and then you just kind of like go in this cycle. And what's funny about that is we really do like equate like likes or comments with the value of the thing. But I mean, how many times, I'm sure you can attest to that. I can't tell you how many times I've had someone like reach out to me about coaching or make a comment or something. And I realize, oh, this person who I've never seen like anything ever from me has been reading
Mhm.
all of it for years. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And so we
Yes.
assume like, oh, and no one liked it, so no one consumed it or it didn't impact
Right.
anyone because they didn't let me know.
Right. Right. I know,
When that's
because it's,
just not the case.
well, and that's just the really interesting part of social media is, I like to say, it's not the real world. You
Mm-mm.
know, it's I do have real interactions with people on there.
Mhm.
But this isn't the end all be all of my life or my relationships with people. And I will often ask myself, like, if I, curate this photo for Instagram or put this really thoughtful post on Facebook,
Mhm.
and I get that kind of like wah wah, like, oh, it fell
Right.
flat, didn't get a lot of likes. I'll ask
Oh,
myself,
apparently I'm a
well,
terrible person and no one
yeah.
loves me.
I do not go that far, and that and I will pride myself on that. But that is a true statement. I think a lot of us conflate
Oh
social
yeah.
media likes with do you
Mhm.
like me as a person?
Yeah.
And I will ask myself, well, do I like it? Do
Mhm.
I like what I put out? Do I think it's an important message, or do I think it's fun, or a cute picture of my cat, or a memory that I want to? I mean, that's one cool thing about some of the social media platforms is they'll pop up a memory and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, that's a wonderful." So if I
Yes.
share those things about me, whether it's professionally driven, so it's
Mhm.
something in nutrition or racing space or something like that, or if it's just like a picture of my cat or my garden or a fun memory with family,
Mhm.
I really have come to separate that dependence on the popularity and the likes and the clickable hashtags and different things. And
Mhm.
and I also have come to separate the whole following, the numbers, like, oh, well, this person has more followers than I do. It's
Right.
always great professionally in building a brand to have a broad reach.
Mhm.
But there are certain standards that I have, and we're going to talk a little more about how social media feeds are curated in a certain way. For example, I'm just not the type of person to, exploit my body in certain ways to gain social media followings. I'm not the type of person to partner with a nutrition brand with whom I disagree on
Mhm.
their philosophy in order to gain social media followers.
Mhm.
So there's certain things about me and my integrity as a person and a business that I just have continue to go back to those values. Like,
Right.
why did I post this in the first place? Why do I think this is an important message? Why do I want this
Right.
picture on my feed? And that always brings me back to center instead of getting into that
Mhm.
weird funnel of what social media should be.
Absolutely. Yep. And I really try to do the same thing, just kind of keep myself grounded in that way and remind myself because it is easy to get caught up in like, wow, I only have this many and I feel like I'm saying good things and doing good work. Why does this person have more? Whatever.
I know.
But I remind myself often like I really don't ca- I mean, I think I do in some superficial ways. I care about that at least at times because I find myself getting caught up in that. But in deeper ways, I don't care about that reach as much as I do impact with people. And I would rather have a smaller base, a
Mm-hmm.
smaller, viewership or whatever of people that really resonate with what I'm saying, than a broad reach of people who don't care at all.
Right.
And I think that's where social media can get kind of tricky because listen, there are a lot of people that have huge followings that absolutely deserve it because they're doing really great things and they're important voices in whatever industry, right? Or they're funny or whatever. Like they deserve it. Absolutely. That there also is a lot of manipulation of that. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of doing things a specific way so that I can have the followers, not impact, not caring about that, but just that number, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many, I bet at least twice a week, I'll get a message from some
Oh, geez. Yeah.
stupid
You
account
want
that's
to,
all about like buying
yeah.
followers, right? We'll get you like 10,000 followers in a week,
Or you want to collab? Let's
right?
collab.
Yeah. Or
I'm like,
yeah,
gag me.
yep. Or I get emails about it, through like Instagram in particular. But there's a lot of, a lot of, especially with like influencers, there's this, my worth is tied to how many people
Mm,
appear to find value in what I'm saying. And I need to broadcast that to people so that I feel like I have value. Right. And so, yeah, I'll spend $100 to get 5,000 followers. So I'll do this thing. Or my favorite thing now is the brand ambassador Are you
Oh
familiar
yeah.
with that? Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like,
That's where all
yeah.
those collab
Hmm.
messages come. Let's collab.
Yeah.
I'm
And
like,
it's like,
you use that term in a message to me and you're out. Like
yep.
I'm
I just block those people.
I
Like
don't
I'm not even
collab,
interested.
okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just the idea that, you know, like like supplement companies are really
Hmm.
good or bad, depending on how you look at it. I say bad about this of, hey, you can be a brand ambassador, right?
Hmm.
And so what you do is you take a picture with our product and talk about our product, and you can save 10% on our products. Like
Right.
you can buy
Like
our stuff for
10%.
less. Yeah. Or,
I know.
whatever it is. And then, but when you see someone who's pitching a product, we we think, oh wow, they must have good reach. They must have some influence because
Hmm.
obviously this company wouldn't reach out to them. But it's all flipped,
Right.
and it's there's so many backwards ways that people can have this sort of pretend reach so that they feel better about themselves, and we go, oh well, they must have more clout because more
Yeah.
people are following them, and we confuse that, we conflate that, you know number of followers, bigger reach with more accurate
With
information,
trustworthiness. Yeah.
trustworthiness. And we talked
Yeah.
about that. And didn't we do like a fitness influencers
Oh yeah. I think we talked
something?
about,
Yeah, something. We talked about something.
yeah.
Pretty sure.
I think we've talked about things in the
Yeah,
past.
yeah. We talked about things before, um,
Well,
but we
and it is
confuse those things, and we see, oh,
totally,
a lot of followers. I must. They must be worth trusting.
well, and the unfortunate thing about social media is it exploits our psychological weaknesses.
Hmm.
And I don't want to say weaknesses because it's more like tendencies, like what we know about human behavior and social belonging and what drives decision making, what drives buying behaviors, those kinds of things. Social media is primed
Hmm.
to exploit those 100%. So the marketing schemes, the algorithms, the way it feeds you information, my phone listens to me. Last year, when we were looking for an office chair for me, I had asked my husband what one of his work partners has this really great chair, and it's actually a gaming chair,
Hmm.
like the really comfortable, like it looks like a massage chair, but I mean, maybe they do massage, I don't know, but it's just like this really comfortable, like office chair. And I asked him what was the brand of it again, and he told me. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll have to look that up. I'm not kidding you. I picked up my phone not long after and scrolling whatever, Instagram or something, and this ad came up for that chair.
Do you want
And
that
I
thing you
was
talked
like,
about?
yeah, the thing that I was talking about with the phone in my room.
Yeah.
So it's really disturbing, that kind of stuff. To me, it is, because I just don't
Yeah.
want my phone listening to everything I say. But it also just, it's almost nice to know that the things that are presented in my face or in my feed or you know through social media
Right.
use is, a lot of it is just driven by dollars. How
Hmm.
can we get marketing in front of people? I mean, look at YouTube.
Hmm.
So I'm not a big YouTuber, my husband is, but man, he, the amount of money that some of these YouTubers make. And here's a little statistic. So this is teen statistics now on social media use, because I think that the current generation of teenagers right now is hugely susceptible. They haven't known a world without social media.
Right.
And so for Michael and I to talk about this, we remember what it was like growing up without a phone
Right.
or even a computer, at your every whim.
Right. Yeah. Or
And
cable.
right.
Three
And
channels.
now, yeah, and you had one phone line. And if
Yeah.
if it was busy, it was busy. Like
Too bad. Yep.
so I think of teens, and one of the things that I found, like the most popular social media platforms among teens, 85% of teenagers use YouTube, which I shouldn't be shocked about, but I am, because
Yeah.
there is so much on YouTube,
Hmm.
and YouTube makes a ton of money
Hmm.
on ads and marketing,
Hmm.
a ton.
Yeah.
And not just marketing like, oh, here's an obvious like commercial advertisement,
Right.
marketing like what Michael's talking about, like the endorsement of certain products, or Matt watches a lot of reviews on, say, like camera equipment and
Right.
that kind of stuff. So that is marketing in certain ways.
Yeah.
um 72% of teens use Instagram and 69% of teens use Snapchat. Which platforms do you use, by the way? Just
Um,
curious.
I have Snapchat, but I only use it to like communicate with a couple people because that's how they like
Okay.
text. I never get on there or do anything. Facebook and Instagram, pretty much. I post pretty regularly on Twitter, but that's just to be able to like take a screenshot of that and put it on Instagram. Like if there's something I want to say,
Right.
that's the only reason I have Twitter. I don't ever
Got
do
it.
anything on there,
Yeah.
unless someone like sends me something or tags me or something. But
Hmm.
primarily Instagram and Facebook. That's pretty much it. How about you?
Yeah. I Instagram is my number one. I think it's the most fun and I love photos.
Mhm.
So that's number one. I do use Facebook. I have Twitter, but I don't use it often. I use it a little
Mhm.
bit. One that was suggested to me is LinkedIn, which I
Yeah,
haven't, I'm on there, but I don't use it very much, but I hear it's very good business platform, although it
yeah,
seems a little bit spammy to me
yeah.
and
I had it for a
insincere.
while, and I was like, I don't
Yeah.
need this.
Like it doesn't feel
Yeah,
right. I keep getting nudged to get on TikTok
yeah.
because I really want to reach teens in some of the
Hmm.
work I'm doing. And I'm just like so resistant to it, but
Yeah.
maybe I'll need to do it.
I had TikTok for a bit, but like there was there's never been a social media app that I've been able to waste time on like that. Oh my gosh. I was like,
TikTok.
this is ruining my productivity. Like
Oh,
I have to,
really?
yeah,
Okay.
because it's
Yeah.
like little 15-second videos and then you swipe to the next one and swipe. And it's just like it's constant and it's all video, and yeah. I do
So
use
get
YouTube too. I have to say, because for training, all my training videos are on there. I don't do much on it, but I am on there
right.
quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, and Middleish is on YouTube,
Yeah.
everybody. So
Yeah.
if you want to see us as
Mhm.
we're talking to you, we are on YouTube. We do
Yeah.
not put ads in there. We don't,
Mhm.
um, you know, it's just our podcasts. That's
Mhm.
it. Maybe someday we'll get more creative
And
with
our
it, but
lovely
for now,
faces.
and our lovely faces. So a couple other, you did challenge me to look up stats while you were asking me questions. And
Oh,
that
that's
was, I
right.
don't know, a half hour ago, but I did look up the stat that I was trying to
So she
find.
can do it. Might not be
Yeah.
efficient, but she can do
Yeah. As we
it.
were talking about, social media, mental health, the amount of time spent on it.
Mhm.
So here's some statistics that my colleague and good friend Kaylee Featherstone, who is a therapist here in Boise, sent me these stats because she works in this space a lot and she's attended like tons of conferences and workshops and read a bunch of research on social media and does research herself, especially with teens. And
Mhm.
teens spend on average 7 to 8 hours a day on social media, which is just unbelievable. I told my husband that statistic and he's like, how do they have that much time? And I'm like, well, think about it. They're in a group with their friends in the same room, but they're on social media,
Mhm.
or they're in class or walking between classes and they're on social media,
Or they're
or
up
they're
till
on their
2 in the
lunch break.
morning
Yep.
on social media.
In their room on social media. And it takes about 30 minutes of media consumption to increase body dissatisfaction and negatively fixate on weight. And that's from a 2017 study done in Australia.
Probably even,
And
yeah.
I think, I mean, 30 minutes, it could take less than that, you
Mhm.
know? So if we have our young people spending 7 to 8 hours a day on social media, and I would really encourage all of our listeners to set up on your phone or wherever. I mean, the phone is frequently used for social media, right? It's
Mhm.
always with you. Set up your little screen time monitor that tells you how much time you spend using those apps every day or every week. And I
Mhm.
get this little weekly report that says your screen time is down or up or
Mhm.
whatever. And then maybe cross reference that a little bit with how you feel about yourself. How do you
Right.
feel about your life? How do you feel about your eating and your food choices? How do you feel about the vacations you're taking? Shit, I had
Mhm.
like 5 people at once that were in Mexico or Hawaii a couple weeks ago. And it was just constant in my brain. Like every time
Mhm.
I'd open Instagram or something, I'm like, everybody's in a tropical climate with beach
Right.
sand between their toes, and I'm here.
My life sucks. Yeah.
And I think that's an important point and something you had put quite a bit of information in here about how social media is not, it's make believe. It's,
Right.
you know, this reel of comparisons.
Well, it's what it's what people, and not that social media isn't inauthentic interactions, but necessarily, because I've had some very authentic interactions, right? And I mean, that's part of what we do is we try to communicate things authentically and they resonate with people. And I'm sure you have too. I've had some really great conversations that have been very honest and very real, but there's such a drive of to increase that followership, increase my influence, right? So I feel good about myself that I'll do whatever needs to happen to make that happen. And that
Mm-hmm.
includes being very inauthentic. And so when we have this barrage of inauthenticity, is that a word? I don't know. I'm going to say it's a word.
Well, yeah.
Inauthenticity. Yeah, it's a Michael word. Uh, but when we're bombarded with that so much, we start to lose sight of the fact that it's inauthentic. And I
Yeah.
think because we're exposed to it so often, it's easy for that to start to feel like what's normal and commonplace. And the more time we spend on social media, the less time we spend having person to person, face to face interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And those are different interactions, right? I mean, those can be inauthentic too. Absolutely. I mean, but it's harder, I think, to be inauthentic, and it's different when you're face to face with someone.
Yeah.
And so we start to think, this is all speculation. This is Michael's pretend statistics, but I think that the more exposure we have to those inauthentic interactions, the more they seem like that's just the way it is. And that's what's legit. That's what's
Mm-hmm.
real world, because that's where we're spending our time. And we have these people who are projecting only the best, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
not even the best, just a make believe or pretend thing that's not, it doesn't have to do with their lives or the way they live or the way they operate or what they think. It's just, I think this is the messaging that is going to bring people to me in a way
Yeah.
that I can build this thing that I can then be an influencer, right? And there's no real gauge for authenticity. I think that's the hard part about like the fitness and nutrition diet industry on social media. There's no governing body to go like, hey, this isn't accurate. People can say
Mm-hmm.
whatever they want.
Yeah.
And
And it's scary, the misinformation that's
it's
out
real
there.
scary because
That's
it's
why
rampant.
we love our
It's,
friends like Dr. Spencer Nadolsky, who's really good at
yeah.
calling out social media misinformation. And then I follow another person on Instagram who calls it NutriBullocks. What's his
Mhm.
name?
Oh, yeah.
Joshua, Dr. Joshua
What
something.
is
I'll
his
find
last
it.
name? Yeah, I like him a lot. He's good. Um, what was I going to say? I don't know.
Dr. Joshua Woolrich.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's great.
He calls out nutrition misinformation, and there are a ton of influencers who are doing that kind of stuff. Food Science Babe is another
Hmm.
one on Instagram
She's great.
that I've seen call out just basically taking TikTok videos or other things and pointing out like this is how
Hmm.
science refutes that, or this is what the evidence says, or
Right.
there's no evidence for this claim.
Right.
And it's hard to find those people sometimes because the algorithms that we have for social media perpetuate what you view.
Hmm.
So, did you ever watch The Social Dilemma?
I never have. I need to.
It's
I've
really
I've just
um
I've been scared about what it's going to make
it's
me feel.
disturbing. I will tell you it is disturbing, and I get it. It's a Netflix documentary. There are conflicts of interest where a lot of the experts that they interview have already made their millions because they developed these algorithms.
Hmm.
So I get that. And I fully acknowledge that this is, any documentary these days is laced with propaganda in some way or another.
Hmm.
And that's an unfortunate truth, but it's the truth. However, the algorithms that are used, we really are relying on artificial intelligence to basically turn our behavior on social media into a mathematical equation and spit out the solution and continue spitting out solutions based on the equation it's receiving.
To make money.
And yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
to increase use. of the platform. That is the entire point, is to keep you on that platform. So like we just talked about, like the badges, the notifications, those are all related to what happens in our brain with like a dopamine hit, or that red. The reason they use red is because that is commonly used as an alert, and so it sends a signal in your brain that this needs my attention right now. There's all of these little nuanced details that have been used by social media to keep us on the platform longer. And there was one study I found, again, back to teens real quick, that said, or no, yes, this was teens, talking about how depression, anxiety, and other mental illnesses, but those are two of the most common ones linked to increased social media use. And it says here, some teens experience anxiety from social media related to fear of loss, which causes teens to try to respond and check all their friends' messages on a regular basis. I don't think that applies to just teens. I think that
No.
can apply to adults too.
That
That whole
fear of missing
FOMO.
out. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's another thing that social media has done, is taken our weaknesses as a human and our need to be socially engaged and to keep up with the Joneses and to,
Right.
reply to everything and be kind of on. We don't want to miss out. We don't want
Right.
to, again, become irrelevant, which was my big concern with
Yeah.
being a triathlete. And so unfortunately it creates anxiety. Like you're just constantly wondering, am I, do I need to post something? Do I need to respond to that person? Do I need to check my notifications? It's really, excuse me, but fucked up how the
It really
social
is.
media platforms have exploited this in a way that it has completely changed how we interact as humans.
Yeah. Well, I think that ties right into a point I wanted to make earlier, but I kind of forgot about, is that exploitation piece. So I there may be more predatory industries, but the diet and fitness industries have to be right at the top for predatory industries. I mean, they just
Mm-hmm.
prey so expertly on our insecurities. And they did that well before social media. They did that well when it was, their best chance to get in front of you was infomercials or magazines at the checkout line at
Mm-hmm.
the grocery store, right? Now they have opportunity to do this to you all the time because it's right in your pocket or right in your
Yep.
hand. Like you don't, like you don't have to be, it's just where you are all the time. And so this is like, I really think that social media is, as far as that predatory approach, it's like the best dream that they could come up with. It's that ability to constantly put in front of you, see how you're lacking, see how you're not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you'd be loved more if you were thinner. Boy,
Yeah.
if you just were a smaller
Buy our
size,
product,
think about how
sign
much
up for
money
our
you'd
service.
make if you weren't
Yeah.
a size blah, but a size the. We can help you do that. It's just constant. And I think it's really important to keep in mind that this industry is really pretty predatory and that they're going to do this. They did this well before before they were in your pocket, literally. They're doing it even better now. And it's just really important to keep that in mind, that I think a large part of this industry does not care about your health, does not care about you, meeting your goals or whatever. They care about your money in their pocket. And they're doing this exceptionally well. And I think it's important to go in with that kind of in the back of your head, at least, if not the front of your head, whenever you engage with new accounts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or come across nutritional fitness information on social media, is okay, what is their end game here?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a bad thing to do business on there. I do that. Like, yeah, my end game is, yeah, I'd like to build my client base. Absolutely. But not at the expense of your health, not at
Right.
not exploiting insecurities. Like, are you thinking about making a purchase because you feel bad?
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of a red
There's a
flag there.
red flag there.
Yeah.
But this
One of
industry does this really, really well. And I think it's just
It
important
does.
to just have in mind all the time.
Yep. Yep. And that's a really good point. And I do want to talk a little bit about how you can clean up your social
Mm-hmm.
media feed.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same thread where you talk about it being predatory, unfortunately, there are humans that use the nature of social media having that far reach to be predators.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we could talk about sex trafficking, prostitution, pornography, all those things. You could talk about drugs. I just watched a news special that was talking about how Oxycontin, for example, is peddled on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And what some of these predators will do is look for posts and keywords and even hashtags that they can then comment and basically offer, like, hey, I can get you this for whatever. And unfortunately, there have been deaths because of this, because
Sure.
people are, get access to drugs on the internet, and they'll even use misspelled hashtags because there are agencies that are cracking down on this and finding the criminals behind some of these posts
Mm.
um, and some of this trafficking. But they'll use, like, for Oxycontin, instead of that hashtag Oxycontin, they'll use Oxycotton and just misspell one word. So, I mean, obviously the intended message is still there,
Right.
but these algorithms that can only read,
Right.
and decipher characters and don't decipher the entire message,
Right.
um, lose those kinds of things. So the unfortunate thing, another downside of these algorithms is, number one, they can't read memes, which was an interesting fact that I found.
Yeah.
That's why memes go so viral, because it's a picture, it's an image.
Mm-hmm.
So until the technology is developed for social media algorithms and Overwatch to
Makes sense.
actually read a meme, it's
Right.
just a picture.
It's
You're
not
just sharing an
text.
image,
Yeah.
and it has to be flagged or reported in order to be, called misinformation or taken
Mm-hmm.
down or blocked. So memes are very problematic, but then also, like, that weird hashtag, little word jumble, like you just
Mm-hmm.
jumble a letter, leave one out, spell it a little bit wrong. All of a sudden you fly under the radar.
Yeah.
So it's really disturbing I mean, just to kind of hit on that really dark side of social media. And I know that the vast majority of our listeners are probably not, in that space, or really touched by that space, or worried about it. But if you have teenagers, just I think it's a really, really important conversation to have.
Yeah.
And I do have a resource that my friend Kaylee shared with me that I will link in the show notes. And I'll link a bunch of this research in the show notes. But this resource is out of the University of Nevada. And it's just how you talk to your child about social media
Mm-hmm.
and tips on how to use it properly. So
Cool. I'd like to look at that too.
yeah, I will share that.
And we don't, Lila doesn't have any social media stuff, but it's coming, she
I
turns
mean,
10
it's
on Friday.
inevitable.
It's right
I
around the
know.
corner. Yeah.
I know. And I have a friend, a good friend, who has a 13-year-old, and I think her younger one is 10, 9 or 10. And it's the same kind of thing. Like, she doesn't use TikTok, but she's around all her friends that have TikTok.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and how do you teach your child, responsible use of this? Um, yeah, it's just, so some of the tips that I have heard that I think are, if I were a parent, I would be employing these things. No devices in the bedroom,
Okay.
period.
Yep.
Devices only in common areas.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are parental controls on a lot of devices that you
Yeah.
can put on, and different apps that will allow your device to
Mm-hmm.
use things, have a certain app that you can download or not download, those kinds of things. I don't know if you've read any more about those, but
Yeah. We
if
have
you know
some of
anything
those.
about them.
And yes, there are some that allow, like they don't allow things like, I'm thinking like Apple Music. Like you can set like parameters for what kind of music, not what kind of music, but like there's ratings or whatever, and like under a certain age, or the Netflix, like you can only watch up to things that are appropriate for age 7, or
Mhm.
things like that. So there are a lot of social media things do have those parameters. I don't know that they work 100% of the time by any means.
Mhm.
um, but the tricky thing is, a lot of like the games now have a interactive component. It's not like you just play a game by yourself. It's you play a game and there's all these other people, so we've been
Yeah.
really careful about, like, okay, if there are chat components, then you're only allowed to play with people that we know. Like you have to be buddies to chat. If anyone can chat with you, you're not getting that game. Sorry.
Yeah.
If it's like something you can do with your friends and they're the only ones that can contact you, that's fine. We like Lila does have kids Facebook Messenger, which is it's just like a way to send messages with friends, but we can see everything that's written. We have to
Mhm.
approve who she can talk to. Like no one can send her a message, or she can't send anyone a message, or she can't friend anyone without, like, we have to do it. So that feels pretty safe. Um, but it's the Wild West out there a little bit.
I
Like,
know.
I mean, things are changing so fast,
Yeah.
that it's
It's hard to keep up, and
and
it's
it's nerve wracking.
hard to know what's going to come next. Like
Mm-hmm.
what, I didn't know about this thing that
Mm-hmm.
was a thing until it's suddenly here.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things I was going to suggest, so like devices in common areas, set definite time usage, boundaries with your child. And I would even say commit to some boundaries yourself on your own phone use, because your
Yeah.
children
Don't
will look
expect
to
more of
you.
your kid than you expect
Yeah.
of yourself. Come on.
Please don't text and drive.
Right.
Don't Facebook and drive. Don't TikTok and drive. Don't just put
Yeah.
your phone in the back seat or the damn trunk if you have to.
Yeah.
Please, 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 please don't use your phone while you're driving.
Yeah.
Unless you have Bluetooth in your car and you can just answer a quick phone call
Yeah.
and drive. One of the other things I think we could touch on is how to curate your social media feed in a positive way,
Mm-hmm.
because and be clear on what your intent is with your social media. What are the things you want to see, the people you want to stay in touch with and engage with. I have some people in my life that I have set boundaries on our social media relationship because it was not helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I want to have a real relationship with these people. So,
Right.
hey, I'll give you a call. We can, chat on the phone. We can meet for coffee. We can go for a walk. We can do these things together, but I'm not going to engage on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you find, like we mentioned, good, a few good Instagram accounts to follow, Dr. Spencer Nadolski, Food Science Babe, and Joshua Woolrich are all good ones to follow. And they tag other people and you could follow the hashtags that they use. You could
Yeah.
follow other people that they correspond with. And the more you click onto those accounts that are evidence-based, that are, or body positive accounts are
Mm-hmm.
another one. And I have a whole slew of hashtags and accounts in a couple of the books I have. I could, easily put those in the show notes.
Yeah.
You can then start setting up your feed to show you the things that are actually you deem helpful to you. There's a ton of mental health positive
Yeah.
things on social media that are really good, like affirmations and things to work on. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge proponent of cat videos. So click on all those cat videos and your feed will start showing you more. It's lovely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think too, and I think we might have talked about this a little bit more in that influencer, whatever, I don't know, whatever episode it was. But just if someone is posting things that makes you question your self-worth or your value, or just makes you feel bad about yourself, like, unfollow them. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason you need that. And I promise you that within the health and fitness industry, there's no one whose voice is so important that you have to follow them, right? Like that if you don't follow them, you're going to be missing out on anything. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
no one that you need to be following, even if they're super positive and helpful. Like, you don't have to be doing that. And so if you're following someone who makes you feel like crap, or makes you just, they're just feeling like negative interactions, um, why have that? You
Right.
don't need it. And it really, like, it's something I do every now and then, kind of go clean up my, my, who I'm following and that kind of stuff. And it feels good.
Yeah.
And I've never missed anyone that I've unfollowed, not once.
Right. It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much we could talk about.
We
I
could
think
do like 3
maybe
more episodes.
I know. Let us know if there's something that we didn't hit on that maybe
Mhm.
we should talk about again. But I think another episode could easily be geared most toward like fitness
Mhm.
tech and social media and the kind of the fitness and diet industry social
Yeah.
media aspect and some of the apps and different platforms that are out there, because I have a few that I didn't
Right.
mention that I think are very popular. So
Right. Absolutely.
yeah, we can
Yeah.
leave that for next time, but
All right. We'll do a part 2.
good talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a meaning in the
Meaning in the
mundane?
mundane. I do.
You
I
do.
went to visit friends this weekend. It was the first time that I had really gone anywhere um, other than just the short trip that I did to see my family last fall. But I drove up to Spokane and took my bike and went for a long ride with a friend who was also a former pro triathlete. So it was kind of fun, like our glory days, of like, let's go out and do this big ride.
Yeah.
Saw my best friend from kindergarten, really, like we grew up together, and got to see her 3 kiddos and her husband, and saw another friend, who's in my wedding. And it just, I saw my brother. It was so meaningful to be around people,
Mm-hmm.
and these people that I know so well that I know I could
Yeah.
call them up anytime and talk with them, but to actually be there in their presence and get hugs and feel normal, in their
Mm-hmm.
home. And it just was, yeah, something that I hope I never take for granted again.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the internet has provided like great connection through this pandemic, right? Like ways that we wouldn't be able to without it. But there's something about being with somebody. There's that exchange of energy, right? Like
Yeah.
you emit your energy and they emit, and you feel each other, not
Mm-hmm.
just physically, but like that energy that we just don't get like this. And there's just really something to that tangible experience and interaction that's just, man, it's so important.
Yep.
That's awesome. I'm glad you got to do
Yeah.
that.
And you don't realize it till it's gone. So,
Yeah. And then you don't realize,
yay.
I think sometimes how much you miss it until you get it back. And you're like, oh, yeah, this is the
Yeah,
best.
this feels so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
realize how much I miss this.
Yeah. How about
Awesome.
you?
I love it. So mine was this last night. So my parents came in. Kathleen's mom had a surgery. And so she wound up staying with her mom last night. And we kind of shuffle beds when my parents are here. So Sophie was sleeping in our bed, right? And Kathleen was gone. So she, was asleep at 8:30 or whatever. And I came in, later on to go to bed. And she's out cold, right? Like in the middle of the bed. I like lay down, I'm trying to be all
Yeah.
quiet, not bounce the bed or whatever, and sneak into bed to not wake her up. But she sleeps like a rock. So I probably could have like launched onto the bed and she would have woken up. But I, sneak in there and there's about, I don't know, a foot between us and she's out cold, right? But in her sleep, in the dead of sleep, she somehow knows, oh, daddy's here, right? Daddy's.
Aw.
And so in her sleep, she just kind of like wiggles and scoots over right up next to me and just puts her head on my shoulder. And it's just like gone. Just like,
Aw.
this is the
So
best. This
cute.
is the best. Like she doesn't
Oh,
know I'm there, but she knows I'm there somehow. You know what
yeah.
I mean? She just knows like, hey, there's a safe place. There's someone I want to be next to who's, my protector and a caretaker. And I love so much. I just kind of sat there and looked at her for a minute, just like, oh God, this is the best thing ever.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
so
This is
cute.
very, very cute.
So cute.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
she stayed
Well,
there all night long. So I'm like,
oh, and then you're like, you can't move
yeah,
because
I'm like, can you
you're
scoot
like, this
over,
this
kid?
was really a lot cuter 3 hours ago.
It was
Now
real cute. And now it's over. It's not cute anymore. Move.
my arm is asleep.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. All right.
All
Thanks
right.
for listening, everyone.
Yeah. Send
We'll
us your
catch you next
ideas,
week.
send us your feedback, send us your ideas for topics, all that kind of stuff. We'd love to hear from you. Middleish@gmail.com.
Okay.
Okay. Have
Have
a
a
good
good
one.
one.
Bye.